Registered representatives offer securities through Securities America, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Financial advisors offer advisory services through Securities America Advisors, Inc. Forest Hills Financial, Inc. and Securities America are separate entities. This is the Keeping Your Money Show with Jamie Westenbarger and Bart Steindler.
Good morning. Welcome to Keeping Your Money Show. Jamie Westenbarger, joined as always by my esteemed colleague, Mr. Bart Steindler. Bart, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. It's a cool $1 million morning today.
Yeah, it's been an interesting week. We've had some days that I think you could wear shorts and other days where the jacket was necessary. So it is definitely fall in Michigan, without a doubt.
I saw one of those cartoons where it showed a person going from, wearing shorts to all bundled up to having a parka on and then back to shorts on each day for living in Michigan.
It's very accurate. Yes. Very accurate.
Yeah.
So it's
need a varied wardrobe up here.
Well, and even if you think about things like football, like these guys are sweating to death one day, and then in the next game they've got long sleeves on. It's kind of interesting. Speaking of football, if you don't know, I'm a regular contributor now to The Huge Show. And if you want to hear any of that, and you can give me your feedback later, feel free to tune in. I'll be on this Tuesday, right there on 107.3 WBBL. On The Huge Show. Should be on, I think, between 5 and 6. So check it out if you want to hear me talk about something besides money all the time.
Hey, The Huge Show is great entertainment for your drive home from work.
Yep, for sure.
3 to 7 he's on. So
like him or don't like him, he's opinionated and he's fun to listen to. So, but this is the Keeping Your Money Show, where we cut through all the bulls, the booyahs, the bells, whistles, honks, and horns to get you to the information that actually helps you move towards retirement. If you miss any part of the show, you can find it on our website. Just go to keepingyourmoney.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter. That's facebook.com/keepingyourmoney or twitter.com/keepingmoney. Of course, you're always available on all of our podcast partners as well: iTunes, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Stitcher. Got a great show on deck today. We're going to talk about these fees could devour more than 300. I don't know where they come with 369. That's an odd number, but we'll say $350,000 over your lifetime. If you are paying for your grown kids' rent and vacation, you are probably risking your retirement. We'll talk about that in great detail. How you answer this question, this one question, will determine potentially how well you will live in retirement. And there's been an upsurge in Social Security and Medicare scams. We're going to talk about how to prevent being a victim, as well as maybe how to help some of our elderly family members avoid being a victim. And that's a really important topic that we'll cover today as well. And the one thing with that is scams are increasing all the time.
Yes.
And I know this even with my mom. And my mom's not elderly by any stretch of the imagination, but she is retired. And she is a little bit less computer literate than maybe younger generations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really easy for people who don't have a lot of technological savvy to get confused and taken advantage of, because these scammers know to kind of talk over their heads, and they scare them, and they don't understand some of this technology, so then it becomes really easy for them to become a victim. So we'll definitely talk about that in great detail later on in the show. You're always welcome to reach out to us. Our phone number is 888-98-MONEY. That's 888-986-6639. If you got a question, maybe a concern, maybe you like what we talked about, maybe you hate what Bart said, you can call and tell him all about it at that number. And also, if you want a second opinion, maybe you need a first opinion. Maybe you've been doing this yourself. Had a number of people come in here in the last couple of weeks where they've done really well the last 10 years. The market's been going great. They've kind of been self-managing that portfolio, but now they're in their late 50s, they're getting closer to retirement, and they realize that, okay, I've made this money, but now what's the plan for turning this into income? That's probably one of the largest, I'd say, questions that we handle, Bart, is how do I take this nest egg and actually make it now income for me when I retire? And we'd love to talk to you. Feel free to give us a call.
Right. 25, 30, in some cases 40 years is a long time to be working without a paycheck. And you don't want to just go off into that abysmal without some sort of plan or idea on how that's going to work out.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that later today, too, how answering this one question will help you determine how well you're going to live in retirement. So let's talk about fees. Now, the first fee that we would be remiss if we didn't talk about is fees in your investment account. And I think there's been a lot of information out there. There's been a lot of push out there for people to get more knowledgeable about what fees they're paying. But sometimes I think we're still lacking in that category. A lot of times when people come in, they have assumptions maybe about what they're paying, but they don't really know what they're paying. Or they have a 401k at work, but they really don't know how the costs in that plan work.
Yeah, I know a lot of times when people bring in their 401k and they say, well, here, these are the different funds in my 401k that I'm invested in. And you say, well, did you bring the one sheet that lists all the funds and then lists the expenses on the funds? And they look at you like, there's expenses on these funds?
Right.
You know, I didn't know that.
Right.
And so you get the sheet and you go over it with them, and there may be funds in there that are charging as much as 1.25% to be in that fund, and then there may be other funds that are at like 1/4 to 0.5%.
Or even less.
And the performance is not always significantly different. So 1.25, is that a lot? That depends. If they're beating the other people, the other funds that are out there significantly on a consistent basis, I don't have a problem with that. However, if they're just doing the same or roughly the same as the other funds that are out there, then why not go with the less expensive fund?
Well, and I think the key is to do that analysis, right? Break down what is that fund investing in, what category or sector is that, what's its performance, what's its fees. Those are the types of breakdowns you need to do to determine what you're invested in. Sure. But that might be a little bit more difficult for people to do, but there's a lot of things that are very simple that you may not be doing that can start to really become expensive too. One is talking to your financial advisor about what you're paying for your accounts there.
Right.
A number of people have no idea what they're paying their financial advisor, how they're even compensated. That's a really easy step. That's a phone call. Make it right now. What am I paying you? And what am I paying for? But then if we go outside of the investment world, NerdWallet did a survey of over 2,000 adults across America, and what they found was a lot of people are paying fees that when surveyed, they actually aren't even willing to do anything to not pay them. Like, they weren't willing to drive. 50% of Americans were not willing to drive more than a mile to avoid an ATM charge.
That's just being lazy.
I mean, that's crazy. I mean, I realize convenience, sure, but convenience at what cost? At $3 a pop, plus your own bank may charge you. And if you even just did that a couple times a month and you start adding that up over time, that starts to become a pretty significant amount of money. I had a recent situation where I have a bank account that I don't have a lot of money in. I use it for something in particular. And so money's in there sometimes and sometimes it's not. And I saw they charged me a fee on it. So I called them up. I said, what is this fee? And they said, well, it's a low balance fee. And I said, yeah, but I have money in all these other accounts with you. And they said, oh, you know what? You're totally right. We'll waive that fee for you. But if you didn't do that, it was like $10. Well, that's $120 a year for the privilege of having that account if you're not paying attention. And, there's all kinds of what we've seen with banks, especially, and credit unions recently, in their desire to get you as a customer. They've offered things like 4% interest on your checking account, right? But in order to qualify for that, you have to do certain things. You might have to swipe your debit card 3 times a month. You might have to have direct deposit. You might have to write at least one check. Like, they have all these conditions. And what's interesting is if you don't meet those conditions, not only do you not get the 4% or whatever they've promised you, but many times they'll charge you a fee. So here you are signing up for this account, and because you don't understand how it works and you're not paying attention, you went from not only not making 4%, but you also ended up paying them a fee because you didn't do the simple things that you needed to do for that to work.
Right. And I think sometimes these things are made intentionally overcomplicated and
oh, absolutely.
And with the idea that, you're going to slip below this. You're not always going to keep that, 2,500 minimum balance or 5,000 minimum balance in your checking account. And you have to be cognizant of that. And then all of a sudden, 1 month you're below there on the day that they record it. And all of a sudden you got a $25 or $35 fee coming out of the bank. That's a lot of money for what they're
right.
what they're servicing.
Well, and I think when it comes to banks, I think sometimes we think optimistically when maybe we should be thinking more pessimistically. And what I mean by that is you go to sign up for an account and the bank says, well, we have our free account. You'll make no interest on this, but there's no fees for it. And we have this other account where you'll make 0.5% interest on your checking account, but you have to maintain a minimum balance of $4,000 and you have to do this and you have to do this. And we say to ourselves, oh, well, I'll do that. Where if we were maybe a little bit more critical of ourselves, we might realize that some of those things we're probably unlikely to do. Like if you don't regularly now maintain a $10,000 balance in your checking account, if that's one of the conditions, to think that you'll just start magically doing that because you have this new account doesn't make a lot of sense. Or if you know that you never overdraft your account, but maybe once you could, you may add overdraft protection to protect you from that one-time event of moving money from your savings, okay? But if you regularly overdraft your account, the last thing you should do is have overdraft protection, because at a minimum, they're probably charging you 10, and at a maximum, they might charge you 35 or 40 for that protection. And the question is, they use an example of a latte. You swipe your debit card, you didn't have the money in there. I don't know a lot of people are listening to this show that don't have $6 in their checking account, but it can be for other things too. If you're regularly running on the line there, probably just not having overdraft protection is a better idea.
Right. And if you're cutting it that close, carry some cash.
And don't buy lattes.
And don't buy lattes. Exactly. The nickel and dime things they can get you. And I notice we were looking at this with somebody once, and they were talking about getting a loan. And then we noticed that there were provisions in the loan that you couldn't pay it off early.
Right.
Or if you paid it off early by getting a loan from another financial institution that you were able to get a better deal on, then there was going to be a fee for that.
Right.
So, all the types of things that can go into these agreements, you have to be very, very careful of them, because once or twice it's not really going to make a huge difference, but the accumulation of these over a period of time ends up being thousands of dollars.
Yep, absolutely. All right, coming up, we're going to talk about, there are a number of articles and stories out there, and it is a huge pet peeve of Bart and I's, and that is parents are spending way too much money on their adult children, and in many instances putting their own situation and own retirement in jeopardy. We're going to discuss that coming up here on the Keep Your Money Show.
There's no one-size-fits-all when it comes to planning your future. Jamie, Bart, and all of the advisors at the Keeping Your Money Show understand that your financial goals are unique and your needs are going to change at varying stages of your life. Our team of advisors can help you tailor a financial plan that meets your unique needs. Call us today at 1-888-98-MONEY or visit keepingyourmoney.com to schedule your free initial consultation.